Hello and welcome to the Shaman's View, the view from the invisible world. Today I want to share with you the secret. And you all know the book, but I want to talk about the secret of the secret. See, the problem is that the secret promises that you can create the coolest life with the coolest wife or the coolest husband and the neatest car and the perfect job and the greatest journey in health, and then dying gloriously into the heavenly realms. The problem is that you, the minute you begin to manipulate reality, you have to pay a price. And the native peoples knew about this. They called this the impact of 7 generations, that you have to calculate 7 generations forward. Yes, you can install the outcomes that you want in this collective dream that we're living in, but there's a price. There's always a price. In the East, they call the price karma. Now, we've all tried this. We've all tried installing into our lives the most desirable outcome, and it takes 2 elements. One of them is vision, and the other one is power. You can have all the vision in the world, but if you don't have the power behind it, you're only going to be making a mess because you're interfering with the flow of life. When you have the vision and the power, you also need to have the ethics, because that's going to be dreaming the world into being for the highest good. Otherwise, you end up dreaming not the coolest life, but the perfect nightmare. So this is the secret of the secret. And the problem with dreaming the coolest life for yourself is that it's all about number one. It's all about me, about my being rich, famous, happy, especially happy, healthy. And then it's about the planet. Then it's about the earth. The shamans of old understood that you had to reverse the priority list. That number one had to be the mother, had to be the earth. And then it had to be your local ecosystem, wherever it is that you lived, the nature around you, the rivers and the trees and the deer and the elk and the eagles. And then it was your village, and then it was your family, and then it was you. And when you held those priorities clear, then you did not incur any debt. You incurred no karma. You were not cursing your ancestors for 7 generations. And these are what in the Amazon are called generational curses. Not something terrible that your great-grandmother or great-grandfather did, but it was all about them first. For the shaman, and I speak to you as someone who's awakening that inner shaman, the priority has to be the earth. If you can dream peace in the earth, dream a sustainable future for the planet, dream an ecosystem where humans and animals and birds and trees and rivers and air are all sustainably interrelated and serving each other, then it filters down to the personal. And then you achieve that personal state of communion, which to us is equivalent to joy, to bliss. So this is the agenda. Now, before the shaman does that, and I'm going to show you how the shamans do it today, because they do it with their altar. They do it with a Mesa, which is a collection of power objects. And I'm going to go through my power objects today so you have a sense of what they're about. You use an altar that you create and that really is a chronicle of your healing journey. Because your altar and your medicine stones are not the ones that you ordered at Amazon, but the ones that you earned by going through your own deep personal healing. But before you did that, of course, you had to set intentionality. You had to set your intention. Now, in the West, we think setting our intention is about thinking or feeling or connecting feeling and thinking, connecting the brain and the gut, which is really important. But as shamans, we understand that setting intention involves ceremony, and it involves fire. Fire is the vehicle. So I want to invite you to join me in a small fire ceremony with a candle, where you light your candle, excuse me, where you light your candle as we have done before, and you set your intention on a stick that you bring to the fire. Because the brain only changes through ceremony. That ancient Neanderthal brain of ours only changes through rites of passage. And the most ancient ones happened around the fire. Because we sat around the fire for 3 million years. So you set your intention, and then you offer to the light. And that is what drives your agenda during this process of dreaming the world into being. May I be of service, may I be in service to the greatest good of Mother Earth, of our mother, of this beautiful blue-green planet that we are in. May I be of service to all of the nature around me, to the rivers and to the eagles and to the trees and the foxes, and to all creatures, all beings, great and small. May I be in service. May I be in service to my village and my community. And may I be in service to my family. May I become an agent of health and of healing. And may I find the health and the courage and the strength that I need to be in service. And as you set your intention with the fire, you're installing that course of action. So that you can dream the world without incurring debt. The debt always has to be paid. You can create greatness for yourself and fortune and fame. And I remember saying to my mentor in the high Andes one time, an old man lived in a small hut, stone hut. And we were inside his hut having a cup of tea, and the sun had just come out. And I walk outside and I say to him, you know, I could fit everything that you own in one of my closets. How can you live with so little? It's like poverty. And he stepped outside his hut, and we were in the Altiplano in the Andes in Peru, surrounded by snow-capped peaks. And he went like this, saying, who is the poor one? So his fortune, his wealth was the wealth of the earth, not the personal accumulated little change that you have in the bank, not what you owned, but what you served. So the agenda has to be with the earth first. The minute we put ourselves first, we're incurring huge debt that is passed down to our children, to our loved ones, and that eventually turns whatever we're dreaming into a nightmare that we become caught in. So I want to share with you the shaman's altar, the Mesa. And the Mesa is probably the most private thing you have in your life, because it is a chronicle of your own healing. There are 13 stones in your Mesa, in your altar. It's called a Mesa because in Spanish the word means a table. The table. This is the table or the altar where you come to connect with the divine and to awaken that divine within you, because it's only from that divine place, not from Alberto, but Alberto in service to and with the divine, that you can truly dream the world into being, so you don't create the perfect nightmare. I remember when I was in my 20s, I made a list of the perfect partner, 3 pages long, the qualities that I wanted to have. And 4 days later, she showed up in my life. 2 weeks later, we had moved in together. But I had forgotten to add to the list someone that I could talk to intimately and deeply when we woke up in the morning. So you can never make a list that is long enough. You have to truly set the intention that whatever it is that you're dreaming is for the highest service. The altar has 13 stones, 3 of them for each one of the cardinal directions, 3 in the south, 3 in the west, 3 in the north, 3 in the east. And each one of the stones represents an aspect of your own healing. The 3 stones in the south are about your deep, deep healing, about healing the wounds that you inherited from your family of origin, the childhood that was terrible, the trauma that you experienced at birth or later, the way you were violated or not respected or not honored. The 3 stones in the west are associated with fear. How do you step beyond fear and into courage? The 3 stones in the north are about the wisdom that's important for you to embody in this life. The shamans say that this is about the ancient wisdom, but each one of us has a unique wisdom that we need to embody to come to our highest state of being in service. And then the 3 stones in the east are about your power and your courage to dream a world into being. And so I want to take you through a couple of my stones, which are the medicine that I have grown over many years, and that are earned as you go through your training as a shaman. You don't buy these stones. You earn these stones. You earn them by going into a high mountain and collecting a stone and then working it. And this stone had to do with, for me, with loss, with the loss of everything and everyone that I loved. And in my childhood, deep, deep loss of family, of faith, of God. And as I worked at healing, I was able to recover faith, to understand that nothing can ever be taken away from me, because I never owned anything to begin with. How can anything be taken from you when you are ownerless? And it also helped to bring me back to myself, so I didn't have to keep looking for myself through my partner, through my mother, through the approval, through the grade that I got at school, through the smile, so that I could find myself. I could become self-referencing. Another one of the stones, maybe perhaps this is I keep the stone wrapped up because it's so intense, and it's a 2-headed jaguar. It's a very ancient stone. It's about 2,000 years old, carved by ancient carvers 2,000 years ago. And it's a double-headed jaguar. And it's a jaguar that has 1 head in the world of spirit and 1 head in the world of humans. And it's able to see through both of those eyes. It's able to see through the eyes that see only spirit, and to be very effective at the same time in the world of matter and of humans. So this double-headed jaguar is to understand that we are connected to the ancestors and to the ancient wisdom, but we are not they. We do not carry their karma. We do not carry their stories, but we do carry their wisdom. And the jaguar that has his head in the heavens is a jaguar that has journeyed beyond death, that understands that death is simply the continuity of consciousness and of life. So this is in the West. This is a stone in the West. And when I do my healing practice and my meditation practice, I dedicate it to the healing of the earth, to the healing of all beings, to dreaming a sustainable future, not only for myself, my family, for humanity, for all creatures in the earth, but starting in that order. Otherwise, it's me trying to find a way to fill a huge hole that I have within me at times, like we all do, with things or with people or with experiences or with success or with acclaim or no. Dedicate it all. Dedicate it all, especially during these times that we're living in. And then it all filters down to you. Of course, as you refine this practice and you work with your altar And the altar is essential to the shaman because the altar is what transforms your wounds into sources of compassion and of generosity. So that deep wounding that lived within me now is a source of my compassion because I know what it's like to hurt. I can help someone because of the pain that I have experienced. And that becomes part of my medicine now and no longer lives inside my heart. And we have to empty our heart of these wounds and these places that are hollow so that we can truly be in service and of service. So the shaman's altar are the 4 steps to knowledge and power. Healing the past, shedding the past. In the south, the way the serpent sheds her skin. In the west, becoming fearless by journeying beyond death, understanding, seeing, going through that doorway of death, inviting death to your dinner table every night, and knowing that death is just a teacher, and a great teacher, that there's no fear. So in the north, you receive the wisdom, the gifts of wisdom. And you know, the work of the jaguar of the west is scary. You meet your fear, your demons. And in the north, you find that even scarier is your own wisdom and your own light and your own possibilities. Terrifying. I could do that? Wow, step up to it. Step up to that invitation to become a wisdom keeper. And in the east, you become a dreamer, one that dreams the world into being and not the dreamt. So these were the prerequisites. This training was necessary. It was 12 stones that represented the 12 months of the year. And then you received the 13th stone from your teacher. A 13th stone was a gift from the lineage. The 12 stones represented the solar calendar, the 12 months of the solar year. And that 13th stone was the lunar calendar, the 13 moons of the year. And when you had a calendar built in your altar, it became a time machine. You could actually journey into the past to help someone recover a lost soul part, a part of themselves that they needed to become whole again, that they may have lost as a result of trauma or of a deep wounding that occurred when they were born, when they were 6, or maybe 600 years ago in a former lifetime. Once you mastered that skill, you learned that you could also destiny track, that you could track forward into the future in the same way that a shaman is able to track a deer through the forest. She can track through time. She can follow the tracks through time and find a desirable future state. For a patient, sometimes that meant finding a future healed state that was possible but not very probable. And in the act of finding it, they made it so much more probable. They were able to install it in that person's timeline. Or find a future healed state for their village, leading the hunters to where the buffalo were going to be, or the fishermen to where the fish were going to be the next day. Or a future healed state for the earth, for the entire earth. This is the work that the shamans have always done. They have been future trackers. And when they've identified that desired future strand, imagine that the future is all of these little light strands, and that in some future destinies you die young, and some you live a long life but you're sick, and some you live a very healthy and long life. You can follow those for your village, for the planet, and select the highest desirable destiny, and then it filters down to select your highest desirable destiny line. And that becomes supported and strengthened by the mother, by the earth, by the rivers around you, by the wind, by the fox, by the eagle, by the deer, by your community, by your loved ones, and by yourself. So you no longer sabotage yourself. These are the keys that the shamans work with. Today, we have to all become shamans. Today, we have to step into a wisdom society. We have to step into a wisdom calling. instead of this information society that we live in. And as shamans, we differentiate between information and wisdom. Information is knowing that water is H2O. Wisdom is being able to make it rain. Information is knowing a diagnosis. Wisdom is being able to heal. Information is knowing the nightmare that you're living in. Wisdom is being able to dream a world into being. A world that includes the entire world. You've got to take it all on. You cannot just get a better car, a better spouse, a better job. You've got to take it all on, and then it filters down. Thank you for joining me today, and dream your world. Know that you're already dreaming your world into being, and frequently it's being dreamt from our wounded places. That's why that healing process is so important, so we can dream unencumbered. Thank you.